But like, just think about if you're like you were saying, if next WBC and it's like, all right, let's bring out the big guns, not just in the lineup, not just on offense, but every one of our pitchers is like in the Cy Young hunt every year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the offense obviously was nasty, but yeah, if they convince more pitchers to play next time, it's over.
It's a wrap. And don't get me wrong, got to score more than 2 runs yesterday too.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, they had some nasty splitters from those pitchers. Yeah. It was disgusting.
There were a few pitches I watched where the bottom just fell out. Yeah, it's sick. It's like closer style splitters that you saw, but yeah, that was a lot of fun to watch. It shocked me that you said Josh had zero interest in watching that game. What a fun time this was watching the whole tournament.
Yeah. I didn't see a lot of the early games, but down the stretch, like the single elimination stuff was so fun, and I wish I had watched the early games.
Yeah, me too. I didn't catch them all either. I didn't watch the Mexico loss. I watched us crush that poor soul for Canada.
Oh yeah, the 19-year-old kid from Canada.
I mean, talking about feet into the fire.
Oh yeah,
you just have to go up against the murderer's row of baseball players. But yeah, that was a fun game. Jacob says, credit Japan. We should have won either way. No, dude, they're a good team for sure. Adam and I were both like, are we allowed to tweet this? Can we tweet this? I was thinking too. I was like, by the way, they attacked us first. So I think it's fair game. I don't care how long ago it was. We didn't attack. Am I wrong? I thought about it last night. I was like, we got attacked. Okay. Pearl Harbor kicked all this off. So I can say whatever the hell I want. I don't care if it's 88 years later or whatever it is. 80 years. We could say what we want. It'd be a little bit different if we were the aggressor. Like, it would not be fair if I'm doing that and it. I get what you're saying. You know where I'm going with this, right? Like some of these places that we've just, gone in there for peacekeeping missions, and then I'm like, you guys lost. Lately. Yeah. But I mean, I think this is fair game. And I thought to myself before I went to bed last night, I had a few Jack Daniels. I'm thinking, if I ever did say anything offensive enough to where people are trying to cancel me and like it was just a horrible tweet and it only had 1 like, that like would come from Adam Scherer. Like
it would get a retweet too, probably.
Yeah, I think it would. It'd be 1 like and 1 retweet and then just ratioed to hell. But I know you'd be there. Anyway, happy to have you guys with us. A little 10-game action today. Expanded slate from what we've been seeing. It is the NBA strategy show presented by PrizePicks right here on the Stokastic YouTube channel. I'm Dave Loughran at Laffy_D on the Twitters, joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. How you feeling, man?
Good. 10 games today. It feels like it's been forever since we've had that many.
Yeah, man. It does. We've had like 6 to 8 for the past several weeks. It's been really nice.
Yeah, it has.
Not today, though. You got the Spurs second in the back-to-back, 17.5-point dogs.
That should be a good one.
Rockets, 13-point dogs. Aside from that, a good amount of close spreads. Toronto's an 8.5-point favorite over Indy. But yeah, 10 games to get into. You ready to dive into this?
Yeah, let's go.
And Jazzy said, yeah, Ohtani versus Trout for the game. You're right. You could not have scripted that better. Like that.
Yeah, I saw too when Japan played Mexico in the semis. After the game, Patrick Sandoval and Ohtani took a picture together because they both played for the Angels. And they said that while they're taking the picture, Ohtani reminded Sandoval that the ball he hit off him was 110 miles an hour off the bat.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, dude. Yeah, it's Trout legged out that double at the beginning of the game. It was a thing of beauty, but he had a couple rough plate appearances. There were a couple.
He had a down series.
He did. Yeah. Yeah. Was it? I wasn't paying super close. Was it the splitters that he was just getting turned around on?
I wasn't paying that much attention. I know he just didn't hit well for most of the WBC.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? Trey Turner, that guy, a true American hero. What a patriot he was.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. Mullins came through in his limited at bats.
Yeah, that's
only Oriole on the team.
I said to you too before we started the show that it would have been kind of crazy to see. Like if Harper played, you would have had 4 Phillies in the starting lineup, but then it also just would have been guaranteed that they lose in the championship again, because Philly has all year long has just made it to championships and lost.
Yeah. Also, if Harper played, Schwarber may not have been starting.
I was thinking that too. Yeah.
Because like Alonzo was DHing for a lot of it.
Yeah, I don't know who it would have been. I mean, you're definitely
and like obviously
Bryce
like the outfield would have been Harper, Trout, Betts.
Right. Man, what a fun team though.
Yeah.
When's the next one? Is it every 2 or 4 years?
It's 2026.
Damn. Okay. All right. So 3 years. That's not bad. All right. Yeah. I'll look forward to it. I did not think I'd enjoy it as much as I did. I
was really surprised when I came in the room and you were talking about it.
What, today?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you and I were talking about it last night.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was fun. I'm not huge on regular season baseball, but this just had a different energy to it. You know, this was fun. All right, let's get into some baseball or basketball. Sorry. Baseball does start in 8 days.
8 days.
Well, so we're almost there. We're about a week away. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so. Let me go ahead and do so. Make it 43 here. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Atone for your sins. Show us some love around here. Help us appease the YouTube overlords. You know how it works. And if you're watching after the fact, leave a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel. If you're listening in podcast form, we know you're out there. Ratings, reviews, all that stuff really does go a long way. We appreciate you guys for that. Subscribe to the pod. Tell your friends. As Hannah Banana said, atone, you filthy animals. That's right. Just atone. You'll feel a lot better about yourselves. All right. So diving into this one, Denver and Washington. Wizards playing the second of a back-to-back here. Man, Beal really let me down yesterday, even before fouling out. What a rough performance that was from him in that loss to Orlando. We'll start it off with Denver, though. With 10 games, you do have a lot of top-price guys, a lot of studs. We'll see if Luka's active. He's questionable. But you have Embiid on this slate. You have Jokic. You have Giannis Antetokounmpo. There's a lot of top-tier players taking the floor tonight on a 10-gamer.
Yeah, very different than what we've seen recently as far as pay-up options go. 11.5 for Jokic certainly looks good. Right now, he's only projected for about 3% ownership. That seems low. We have him with an 11% chance of being optimal, so I assume that ownership percentage increases. But clearly, if you get to Jokic, you're going to feel good about it. But like you said, there are plenty of other options to get to as well. Jamal Murray at 7,700 looks like a pretty good price tag. Those are the two that I would expect to be getting the most from Denver.
Okay. I guess, and I'm just pulling up the boom bust tool here to see about our most recent update. I mean, it should have been just a few minutes ago, right?
It was an hour ago.
Was it not? Oh, they got it up early today. Okay, cool. That's good to know. So wait, do you want to just flip over to Washington here then?
Yeah, I mean, with it being a 10-game slate, like obviously if you're playing a bunch of lineups and you land on some like Aaron Gordon or Michael Porter, like whatever, that's fine. But it's you don't have to dig as deep into these teams as we did on those 5 and 6 gamers. So like I don't think anybody needs me to say that like those guys are okay.
I don't think Kuzma plays today. We don't have him projected to play. He's dealing with what was termed a significant ankle sprain. So generally speaking, on the second of a back-to-back after being ruled out for that one yesterday, being questionable earlier in the day, my guess is he's not going to be on the floor today. That brings us back to Porzingis, Beal. Monte Morris is getting a little bit of ownership. But of course, guys, like Adam said earlier in the show, we've been dealing with so many 6, 7, 8 game slates, like 6 and 7, some 5 gamers, that you're seeing a lot more condensed ownership on those. Even decent plays are going to be pretty spread out today. How do you approach the Wizards as 7-point dogs?
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar situation to yesterday, just, more good plays on the slate, but 8,900 for Porzingis, still a good price tag. Played 38 minutes yesterday. He's been about a 1.4 DraftKings point per minute guy in the games that Kuzma hasn't played. Beal, like you said, was disappointing yesterday, but should give you 35, 36 minutes if this game's competitive, assuming he doesn't foul out. He sees a big bump in usage without Kuzma. Still don't mind getting there. Denny Avdia played 34 minutes off the bench. You don't expect that again, but on average, you're getting 28 to 30 from him. He is up to 5,400, but still a decent value option. Monte Morris at 4,600 is a decent value option. He played 31 and a half minutes yesterday. We only got 16 and a half from DeLon Wright, so I am a little bit skeptical about Morris repeating that playing time. I'd feel more comfortable with it if we had gotten more minutes of them alongside each other. But if they are going to continue to just split 48 minutes, it makes it a little bit riskier to get to Morris. But still at 4,600, 10% ownership, I don't have any problems with that.
Okay. Top play from this game?
Jokic, if you can get there. Otherwise, I think Porzingis, Beal, Murray all look pretty comparable when you factor in price.
All right, let's talk about Knicks Miami. I don't think there's going to be a ton here. Not many players that are dealing with with ailments on the New York Knicks side. Then we can get into Miami after this. But with the Knicks right now, Brunson 14%, low 7K price point. That makes sense. We talked about it yesterday. That Randall game was one of the most bizarre things you'll ever see, with like 57 real points and 4 rebounds and an assist or something across. Was that a single overtime game or double?
It was a no overtime game.
Oh, no, that wasn't overtime at all. You're right. It was just felt like it because there were 800 points at halftime.
The final score was 140 to 134.
Yeah. That game at halftime, the total was at like 259.5, and it still crushed that.
Yeah.
It was a bizarre game, dude. Yeah. Quickly came off the bench early. Nobody and couldn't miss. Nobody could miss really, but Brunson does have slight positive leverage in the boom bust tool. Aside from that, though, this team doesn't look all that appealing. I know Randall had that remarkable game, but if you're paying up for players today, you're going to have to be pretty selective with what direction you're taking. You have, most of the league's stars on this slate going tonight.
Yeah, Brunson is the only one that stands out. 7,300 is just a crazy cheap price tag for him. We saw him play 32 minutes his first game back. He followed that up with 36.7 against Minnesota. There's no reason to think he's not playing his normal huge minutes. 7,300 is just a completely broken price tag on him. This is somebody that prior to his injury, if I remember correctly, was up at like $8,500 on DraftKings. So you're just getting, around $1,000 discount for absolutely no reason. It's not a great matchup against Miami, but at that price, I don't really care that much. So 14% ownership coming into him, 15% chance of being optimal. That looks good. Everything else, though, pretty much correctly priced. Obviously, you get a high ceiling from Julius Randle, but you can say that about a lot of guys on this slate. So if you want to use him to be different in a lineup here and there, that's fine, but doesn't really stand out. Robinson's playing time has been down a bit recently. He didn't play at all in the fourth quarter of that last game. We've seen that recently. He has 4,600, so if he gets 30 minutes, he's probably fine. But there's nothing that I think really looks like a priority outside of Brunson.
Andrew Jennison said Sixers Bulls hit the under in double overtime. Yeah. That's crazy. I was thinking of that game too. I just got them mixed up. Yeah, that one had less points at half than Minnesota Knicks had in the first quarter. It was outrageous.
Yeah, I think at the end of overtime, it was 99-99.
Yeah. And there wasn't a whole lot going on in overtime either. All right. On the Miami side, of course, this game, not exactly a robust total here, 223. Miami, one of the slower paced teams in the league. Do you want to start by getting to guys like Jimmy Butler here at a price point that's sitting at 8,400 right now? Tyler Hero's 6,800. Bam's at 10% right now. I mean, I guess the thing with Tyler Hero, and you may have mentioned this the other day, it was somebody, but it hasn't been racking up the numbers as you would necessarily expect, given how many minutes he's been playing. But the price is sub 7K. Should be a competitive game. How do you want to approach the top tier of this, the top 3 in this Miami team?
Yeah, on one hand, I'm a little surprised they're getting as much ownership as they are, given that this isn't the most appealing game environment. But you do just have pretty cheap pricing here. Jimmy Butler at 8,400, you're not going to really have any problem with that. Bam sub 8K, Hero below 7K with the minutes that he's playing. He has been disappointing recently. It seems like every time I play him, he plays huge minutes, but he doesn't do anything. But these prices are pretty easy to get to. I do think they're going a little bit over-owned, and that's reflected in the boom bust tool as well. But nothing too crazy. Any of those 3 guys are fine. Kevin Love, 4K, giving you 21 minutes, give or take. Not the most exciting play, but if you get there, it's fine.
When it comes to this Indy-Toronto game, Indy 8.5-point dogs on the road, if Halliburton plays, number one, I don't really see how we get to essentially anything from this team. McConnell is priced up. Halliburton's a kind of reasonable price, but I mean, who knows what the state of affairs in Indiana, what his minutes look like. I would assume he comes back to regular playing time in the event that he's active, but I mean, is there anyone, maybe some Miles Turner at a low 7K price point? This team just looks largely unappealing in this spot. If everybody, because Duarte and Halliburton are questionable, but Halliburton clearly the biggest one here.
Yeah, if Halliburton's in, to me, the most interesting spot is Miles Turner at 7,100. He's only pulling 4% ownership, and Halliburton shouldn't have that much of an impact on his production. You're still likely getting 28 to 30 minutes. It's a spot where, you're going to prefer getting to Bam for $700 more if you can, but you shouldn't be getting a 4 to 1 ownership gap or 3 to 1 ownership gap between Bam and Turner either. Turner still gives you a very nice ceiling. So with or without Halliburton, I do like him at very low ownership in tournaments. But if Halliburton's in, it pretty much takes away my interest in the rest of the team.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how you'd get to anything there. Plus, it's not like it's the greatest matchup either. On the other side, though, kind of interesting with Toronto. I mean, you have someone like Jakob Poeltl, who since he came to Toronto, he's averaging 1.27 DraftKings points per minute. I mean, he is a phenomenal DFS option, a great per minute guy when he's getting the run. He had doubled in 4 straight before his last game, and he still dropped 20 and 6 in that one. The minutes are a little bit strange when it comes to him at times, but I think if you're looking at competitive games and he's not in foul trouble, you're probably looking at 30, 31 minutes from Jakob Poeltl in a pretty appealing spot against this Pacers team. Yeah,
I expect him to get around 30 minutes. It's a good matchup. He's a good point per minute guy. 6,900, certainly a very reasonable price tag for him. To reiterate with Miles Turner, this is another one where, like, if you're going to get a bunch of ownership coming into Poeltl for $200 less, a bunch of ownership coming into Bam for $700 more, it does create a really interesting tournament spot for Miles Turner. But from a projection standpoint, Poeltl's going to look better. Certainly like getting him at that price.
Do you want to get to Siakam, Van Vliet, any of these guys that have been a thorn in the sides of many ever since, the All-Star break?
Yeah, Van Vliet and Siakam still look good. Very reasonable price tags, both sub 9K. You know that they're playing big minutes. They're in a good matchup. They're going to look good. One thing to keep an eye on here, too, is that Scotty Barnes is questionable. If he doesn't play, I expect that you'll see Gary Trent move into the starting lineup at $5,200 and look like a pretty solid option.
I will say, though, very nice to see that Siakam has kind of rebounded from that really rough stretch. And I think it was you and me that were trying to, maybe it was Josh and maybe we're trying to kind of dissect what was going on when really, like, maybe it just wasn't anything, because I'm not really sure that it was Poeltl influencing his production as much as some people may have thought.
I think it's Van Vliet.
What's that?
I think it's Van Vliet. Like,
me too.
My theory is that Van Vliet was banged up at the beginning of the year, and now he's not.
Yeah, and because you did see Van Vliet taking on a much larger role, not only from a usage perspective, but even as a playmaker, you saw everything kind of trend back up. But it is really encouraging to see the monster peripherals from Siakam over the last 3 games. 22 rebounds and assists, 16 and 19 over his last 3. Without that, you're just not without that type of production from Siakam, it's very hard to justify the salary that he's been at.
Yeah, for sure. It had been a really interesting spot with him because it's like he's down to a price where if you take his season-long numbers, or you remember back to what he was doing the first half of the season, he's crazy underpriced. I mean, this was a 10K plus guy, but if you take his recent production, the last couple of games notwithstanding, then he's correctly priced, if not a little bit overpriced. So it is, a tough spot, a tricky spot. But even if you go back to the start of 2023, which is sort of where you saw, pretty much coincides with where you saw Siakam drop off, he's still been a 1.1 DraftKings point per minute guy, and he's still playing like 37 minutes. So he still certainly gives you upside at this price. And then if he does continue to play at the level he has been the last couple of games, it's just going to be even better. And Scotty Barnes being out, it's hard to quantify, but it's likely you see a little bit more production for Siakam and Van Vliet.
Man, when Barnes went out at the end of the first half, so he played the whole first half, didn't play the second half. Dude, Gary Trent played a lot of minutes in that second half. He played 21 minutes in the second half.
Wow, that's crazy. Nick Nurse played somebody a bunch of minutes.
I know, right? I mean, what would Gary Trent look like if Barnes is out today? From a value
he'd look good. You'd be expecting him to play somewhere between like 34 and 38 minutes. Clearly his per minute production is going to drop a little bit playing with the starters, but with as many minutes as Siakam and Van Vliet play anyway, it's not like you're getting massive amounts of bench run from Gary Trent Jr. when he's coming off the bench. He's still playing with those guys for a large percentage of the time he's out there. So at 5,200, if Trent is starting, he would look like a pretty good value.
I was going to say, I wonder if Nurse would do something weird, because we've seen him do so much weird stuff with starting lineups. Remember, he'll tease something and then say this, and then right before they tip, it's like a totally different lineup. I wonder if he would start like Barton or something and keep Gary Trent off the bench and still play him 30 plus minutes.
He could, but typically Toronto's been pretty predictable this year. When guys get hurt, they just move the next guy up. Like for a while, like when Anunoby was out, you had Trent starting. But then like if Siakam was out, it was just Achua moving into the starting lineup. Right. They've kind of, no matter who is out, they just move the next guy into the starting lineup. So I'd be surprised if it's not Trent.
They also don't need a ton of bench production since the bench doesn't play.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's one thing if you're going, like if the bench gets normal minutes and you want to, move like a spot starter in so that Gary Trent keeps his role with the second unit, fine. But the second unit is the first unit.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's true. It wouldn't shock me because sometimes there's some weird things that go on in Nick Nurse's mind. But yeah, Gary Trent would definitely look good. Like you said, lose a little bit of that usage in the starting lineup, but you definitely be getting considerable minutes. Anything else for this one?
No.
All right. Warriors and Dallas. And yeah, Hannah, I saw that comment earlier where you said the lineup generator is awesome. We actually just had a guy tweet us the other day, and it was like, I think, where is this? It said, I think you have it too, Jacob, but it said, yeah, here we go. I love seeing this stuff. Always nice turning 25 cents into 200 thanks to the Stokastic lineup generator. That's what I'm saying. This stuff makes me happy. Second place in the NBA fadeaway, 25 cents to enter. That's why I always say, like, when I say it's 50% off, it's less than $4.50 for the first week. When I always say, like, even if you're only playing quarter arcade or a couple bucks a day, like, you're still giving yourself a shot to hit something big. And if you don't, you stick with it, or at the end of the week, you're down less than $4.50. The link's in the description. The link is in chat. You're talking less than $4.50 a week to get the lineup generator, which spits lineups out for you. You can save as many as you want, upload them to CSV, or it's also optimized for mobile. It looks great on your phone. You can lock players, swap players. You can generate lineups where you're seeing the projected ownership for that lineup across against the field, right? How chalky it is, what the optimal percentage is on that, all that stuff, right? So you're getting the projections on the players, you're getting the ownership, you're getting how chalky it is, you're getting the leverage scores, all for less than $4.50 for the first week. Or you just want to go all out and you go, hey, I got baseball coming up, I got basketball, I got hockey, MMA, NASCAR, PGA. I got a million other sports going on right now that I want to take advantage of, especially because if I'm going to win at these, the ones I don't know as well, I would like to get some tools for that. Well, you can do that as well because all of our subscriptions, all the memberships that we have, whether it's a week or a month of any sport or every sport across the board, ownership, boom, bust tool, top stack, lineup generator, lineup builder, all the projected stats and data, all that stuff, 50% off. And you can see Jackson Blake. This made me happy. Want to thank the Stokastic team for all they do. Tools are top notch. They helped me become a better player over the years. Keep up the good work. 50K in that one in the fadeaway just the other day. Big shout out to Jacob Blake, rocking the Stokastic avatar for those of you that aren't always around to watch the Hall of Fame segment. But yeah, 50% off everything, or 50% off the lineup generator for the first week. So check it out. Link in the description, link in chat. They're separate. But if you get the 50% off the month or the week, lineup generators included, you could also do it by itself. All right, let's keep this one rolling.
Not entirely related to the lineup generator, but shout out to AB too. $199 and the $74.50 on FanDuel last night.
Yeah, that's right. He DM'd us this morning. Alex Brown, you guys know him, former defensive end for the Bears. Yeah, that's our guy. He did the strategy show with Matt Gajeski and me for NFL. What did he turn that $199 into?
$74.50.
Damn.
7,450.
Yeah, and single bullets.
Yeah, second in the $55, first in the $100 single entry, first in the $25 single entry.
Yeah, $199 to $74.50. Shout out to our boy Alex Brown. All right, let's talk about the Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks. Wiggins is out. Draymond's probable. Looney's probable. So we're back to status quo when it comes to this Warriors team today, for where it's been for the past while. We have Draymond Green pulling 20% right now. That's an interesting ownership percentage on Draymond Green.
Yeah, seems a little aggressive. I mean, it's a cheap price tag at $6K. You're typically getting, 32 minutes or so from him. Dallas can't defend anybody. He's going to fit nicely into lineups, but it does seem a little high. We have him pretty negatively leveraged, 14% chance of being optimal, 20% projected ownership. Good play though. I mean, just a cheap price tag.
Is there anybody, and by the way, minus 5.9% leverage, 13.9% optimal in the boom bust tool for Draymond Green today. Of course, these things are in flux throughout the day. It could change, but right now, not looking great. Clay's got a little positive leverage, 10% optimal, 7% ownership. Curry, 9.7% optimal, 8% ownership. I mean, it looks like these guys just make for your standard decent tournament options because they can go insane, but not priorities on such a big slate.
Yeah, exactly. Very reasonable price tags, but we've said that about a lot of other price tags as well. Pricing just seems pretty soft today. So, you are getting a discounted Steph at 9,700, but we haven't gotten to it yet. It appears, unless we get news that he's going to sit as well, but we haven't. Dame's just going to pull so much ownership in that price range with no Simons and Grant, when we get to that game. So it's going to be tough to prioritize Curry. Shooting guard, small forward eligibility at 7K for Clay looks good. I like getting there at only 7% owned, but again, there are a lot of other good plays as well.
Dallas is really interesting today because Luka's questionable. I don't think it's a lock that he plays, right? I'm not saying he doesn't, but I don't think it's a lock that he's going to be out there after missing a handful of games. And then Kyrie Irving in that last game. So he missed 3, came back for 2. And now the word is that he tweaked that foot sprain again. So I think he's a legitimate questionable in this game. If he ends up sitting and Luka's out as well, Jaden Harvey went from 7,300 back down to 4,800 again. You're just going to have to plug and play Jaden Hardy again if he's active, if those two guys miss.
Yeah, like if Luka and Kyrie are in, I really have no interest in this team. But if they're out, if they're both out, you get a ton here. Jaden Hardy becomes a clear top play at 4,800. Josh Green looks good at 4,900.
Christian Wood again.
Yeah, Christian Wood looks good. He's been playing big minutes recently. If Luka and Kyrie are both in, I think those minutes probably get scaled back a bit. But if they're out, they're going to need Christian Wood's offense. I would expect him to play quite a bit. So this is a team where we need more information. There's the potential for there to be a lot of plays here. There's the potential for there to be basically nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And just looking at Christian Wood too. In the last 3 games that he's played, you're talking about like legitimately big minutes. If you're getting those type of minutes from Christian Wood over that stretch, averaging 1.48 DraftKings points per minute in 28, 34, and then 29 minutes played, if those two guys sit, Christian Wood's price point has not moved from that 67 that it's been at for 2 straight games now. If you're projecting him for around 28 to 30 minutes without Luka and Irving, you're going to have to like a lot of that.
Yeah, he's more expensive on FanDuel, but he has power forward eligibility, so you don't have to use your center spot there. Yeah, he's good. If those guys are out, he's going to look good. I expect Maxi Kleber to play a lot of minutes here. He played 33 last game. He's cheap, not a great point per minute guy, but he does offer some value. But if those guys are out, I expect that you're just getting a lot of Christian Wood alongside Kleber.
You want to talk Philly and Chicago here?
Yeah.
All right. So brutal game last time out for the Sixers, largely across the board. James Harden was terrible in that game. Shot 2 for 14, 0 for 6 from 3. I mean, remarkably bad performance. It happens. He's actually 0 for 12 from 3 over his last 2 games, but he's questionable here with left Achilles soreness. So if James Harden sits, Joel Embiid only looks better. Tyrese Maxey becomes viable at 6,900. You may even look towards a little Tobias Harris, as gross as that is. But Philly would definitely open things up if Harden sits. If he doesn't sit, I don't know how you're going to get to a ton of the 76ers at their price points today. Yeah,
I agree. If those guys are in, clearly you're never upset about getting to Embiid or Harden. But, I mentioned it when we talked about Steph. Damian Lillard is just going to dominate that, top tier of point guards. And so it's going to make it tough to prioritize anything else there. You have Embiid on a slate where you're going to have plenty of good mid-range centers, but then you also have, Jokic that he's competing with at the top. It's just going to be difficult to prioritize anything.
Spencer Smith, did he play any kickers in those lineups, Laffy? Yeah, AB is the god of kickers when it comes to showdowns. Absolutely loves them. And Kyle B, when are you going to join us in Chalkboard, Adam? Yeah, I should get you an account. It's actually pretty fun over there, man. Just pop in once in a while, have some fun.
Yeah, I'll join that right after I join Discord.
There are some people asking for you though. I'll say that much. and the app is free. We're building it up. We're up to 400 people in there. We just started it the other day. You guys, Kyle, guys like you and everybody else that may be quiet, lurking in here and chat. We're building that shit up, man, from the ground floor. And you guys are going to help us do it. The app is free. Chalkboard app is going to be like the gold standard of sports betting. I think even fantasy conversation and chat going forward, because you can sync all the books to it. You can sync all your bets. All the box scores are built into the app. It's free. It's awesome. Everyone that comes in goes, why haven't I been on here earlier? So it's fun, and we're enjoying building this up. So links in the description. Chalkboard app, totally free. All the picks in there, everything's free, not for a week, but forever. So if you guys aren't in there yet, come join us. It really has been a lot of fun. All right. What about the Chicago side today?
Nothing that really stands out there either. Vooch at 7,900 is another mid-range center with a reasonable price tag comparable to Bam Adebayo. So he's getting some ownership. Don't mind getting to DeRozan or Levine, but neither one of them really stand out. Alex Caruso is getting the most ownership on the team because he's $3,100, but he's somebody that projects relatively well from a point per dollar standpoint, but it's still tough to get excited about his ceiling. It's, typically not going to be there. So I don't think there's a lot to like here. If you land on a little bit of Caruso for value, that's fine. To get to any of, Vooch, DeRozan, Levine, also fine, but nothing that really stands out. If Caruso misses this game, it does open up a little bit more for some combination of Kobe White, Patrick Williams, I would assume, but still nothing that I'd be, really excited about.
Greg just said in Chalkboard, good luck getting Adam in here.
Yep.
Yeah, well, it's hard enough to get you to show up for work. All right. Let's talk about the next one on the slate. Houston and Memphis. You got the Rockets and the 13-point dogs. Some of those guys have been good to us lately, though. Look, they're always going to be a volatile team. They're not particularly good. We know that. But if there's one thing that remains consistent, no matter how underwhelming some of them may be, like Kevin Porter shooting 4 of 15 last game, and I know that you and I have kind of beat this into the ground, but I think it would be remiss of us not to keep mentioning it. It doesn't matter how bad they are or how far down they are in the standings. These guys are still Kevin Porter Jr. has played 38 plus minutes in 5 straight games. Jalen Green has played 40 plus minutes in 3 of his last 5, 38 plus minutes in all of them. Like, if you're looking for a team that has reasonably priced players that could play a legitimate 40 minutes in regulation, regardless of matchup, Houston is still on the board. Now, that's not me signing off on playing heaps of them tonight. I'm just throwing it out there that from a tournament perspective, it never hurts to have a team where their starters are getting insane playing time every night.
Yeah, it's clearly risky because they're 12.5-point road dogs at Memphis.
Yeah, tough spot.
But 7,100 for Jalen Green, 6,800 for Şengün are the two that really stand out, because if this game is competitive, like you said, you're just getting huge minutes from Jalen Green. You're getting, if he avoids foul trouble, typically 33, 34 minutes from Alperen Şengün, and they're both relatively inexpensive. Kevin Porter Jr. playing big minutes as well, but he is, $1,000 more than Green, so he's getting half the ownership and deservedly so. But there's risk, but in competitive games like this team is trying to win games. They are using these games to basically just get more experience for their young players, get them hopefully, in competitive games, pulling out wins and kind of just, learning and getting experience. So it's not a team where you have to worry about them doing a bunch of, dumb shit down the stretch where your guys don't play minutes. If the game's competitive, they're playing a ton.
It's hard to think they wouldn't. If you had to prioritize them right now, God, Jabari Smith played 39 minutes last game too.
Yeah, I mean, Şengün was out for that one, but you're still getting.
That's right.
You're still getting a lot of minutes from Smith. It's just that with Şengün in, they're not as productive minutes, but he has been playing better. He has been playing a lot.
Right. Yeah. Eason played 31. If you had to prioritize them right now, would it be Green and Şengün at the top, just given the price points, and then Porter probably, or then Jabari Smith?
Then Porter. It would be Green 1 because he's not a center, Şengün 2 because he is a center, and then I would go I think Porter Martin is the next tier, followed by Smith.
I kind of love Jalen Green in tournaments, just knowing that upside that he has when he pops off.
Yeah, the only thing that scares me is that he is pulling 15% ownership, and you have not that you're predicting the blowout, but that is one risk factor. And then you do also just have the Jalen Green, is inefficient factor. So the ownership, I think, is probably a little higher than it should be, but still, I think a high upside play, a good play.
Yeah. Yeah, inefficient. He could have a horrible shooting game, or he could just, knock down like 6 of 10 threes and shoot 30 times. The Memphis side, here's an odd one. John Morant. John Morant expected back. And that guy's a gunner too. So you know that he's gonna take up some usage. But Jacob caught on to that one. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you for appreciate you. Yeah, real shooter, that guy. All right. But he's back. He said that he's open to coming off the bench. I don't know what's going on with him right now. I don't know if this is like him just trying to placate, and being like, look, I get it. I went to Florida. I'm healed, and I'll play garbage time. It doesn't matter. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Or like just going through the motions. Or he starts today and he plays 100 minutes. I don't think he will. He's been out a while. They've talked about getting his conditioning back, but yeah, here we are. John Morant back. Steven Adams still out, but also Dylan Brooks is suspended because he just caught his 18th tag. Yeah.
So I have no idea what to do with Morant. We're going to need more information on that. If somehow they say he's starting and they're monitoring his minutes, then $9,200 John Morant, sure, play him. But assuming that either he's starting and he's on a minutes limit or he's coming off the bench, I don't really know how you would pay $9,200 for him, even in a good matchup. But him coming back, does cut into the rates of other guys. But I don't think it matters that much because one, the matchup is really good. And two, this team is just so cheap. Jaren Jackson's down to 7,900, Baines at 7,600. They still look like good plays, even with Morant in. And then the more limited that Morant is, the better those guys are going to look. There's going to be value as well. Right now, we have 48% ownership coming into David Roddy. That seems aggressive. I don't know who's going to start in place of Brooks. If it's Roddy at 3,200, sure, he's a good value, but 4,800 still seems aggressive. But you're probably getting more minutes for Luke Kennard. You're probably getting more minutes for Conchar. Yeah, there's going to be a lot to like from this team. It's obviously a good matchup against Houston.
Yeah, you see the optimal score on David Roddy?
Yeah, 24%, but half of his ownership.
Yeah, exactly. Like minus 24 leverage. But sometimes with those value plays, it happens. He's super cheap. I guess we just have to wait and see what the starting lineup looks like. But how much does that really matter though? Like on one hand, it matters in the sense that like if John Morant starts, okay. But if Tyus Jones still starts and John Morant comes off the bench, it's not like you can play Tyus Jones anyway. So
yeah, like Tyus Jones is the one that I think is really hurt here by Morant coming back. They could play alongside each other a bit with no Brooks. Like that's possible. But at 6,600, I think it's going to be tough unless we get like John Morant's coming off the bench and limited to 12 minutes or something. Then feel free to play Jones. But assuming you're getting some sort of actual minutes from Morant, I think it's very difficult to pay 6,600 for Jones. I don't think Morant has too much of an impact here, or he doesn't make me want to not play Jackson or Bane though at those salaries. Jones is the one that I think he really cuts into.
Any other thoughts on Memphis?
No.
All right, well, time to talk San Antonio.
Probably easier today than yesterday.
Yeah, my assumption is you get Zach Collins back and Trey Jones, I think it was back. Keldon Johnson.
Jones was in. Vassell was out.
Oh, Vassell, sorry. Vassell was out for rest too, though, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was rest, yeah.
Yeah, so my guess is you get Vassell, Collins, and Keldon back, and you lose Trey Jones.
The only weird thing though is like Jeremy Sohan, wasn't he out yesterday too?
Oh yeah, Sohan was also out.
Yeah, because Sohan's missed a pair of games. That's the thing. So I think he's probably a legit questionable. I don't know if Keldon Johnson's a legit questionable. He went from doubtful to out like 2 minutes later, midday, and the other Spurs starters had already been ruled out the night before.
Yeah, it was weird. I think Keldon Johnson is probably legitimately questionable. I think Sohan is probably legitimately questionable. I think that Collins and Vassell are playing.
Yes, Collins hasn't been playing back to back, so it just makes sense that he would be back in the rotation. What do you think of him today with how well he's been playing? I know it's an ugly matchup.
Yeah, I mean it's a brutal matchup, but it's another mid-range center that just isn't getting any ownership. So it's kind of like the 6K version of Miles Turner. Collins coming in at 6,400 on DraftKings. I understand why the ownership is low. It's a brutal spot against Milwaukee. It's as likely as any game to blow out, 17.5 point dogs. But he's a good point per minute guy. And if this game is somehow competitive, he's giving you 30 minutes. It's just that you have so many guys around him that are in what's likely to be more competitive games that, they're going to get more ownership and just project a bit better.
You get bad allergies, right?
Yeah.
What type of allergens are out there now? I've been beat up the past couple of days.
I have no idea.
You just know you get allergy. You don't even
I just know I'm allergic to like everything outside. And when seasons change, it gets especially bad.
Yeah. And this is where I'm getting hit. I went out and grabbed some Sudafed today because I was all congested and everything. My eyes were itchy. You ever have like bad sinus congestion to the point where your teeth start to hurt? Because that happens to me. And you ever have that?
Not my teeth. I just like my face.
Yeah, for me, it feels like my teeth are getting pressed out of my gum, dude. It's the worst thing in the world. I woke up like 12 times last night with insane teeth pain, and it's all sinuses. It sucks.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun.
I'll tell you right now, I know it sounds like quacky, but I never even had significant allergies until COVID. I don't know what happened. Ever since COVID, like ever since that spring of 2020, now my allergies are 100 times worse than they ever were. I don't know what to tell you, but it's something I've connected the dots on that.
Yeah, I didn't really notice mine getting any worse since then. They've always been bad though.
But you always had horrible allergies.
Yeah,
like year round almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, with me, I don't know, man. Getting beat up the past couple of days. If Keldon Johnson's in and Sohan's in and this team is largely healthy, 17.5-point dogs against Milwaukee. Some of the price points have already come up. Is there anything we can do with San Antonio?
If everybody's in, I have a really, really tough time getting to this team. Even if those guys are out, I still find it pretty difficult just because prices have come up a bit. You have so many very appealing spots on this slate. I just don't think San Antonio is going to look that good today anyway, but especially if everybody is in, because like if Keldon Johnson's in, if Jeremy Sohan's in, that's cutting into usage for Devin Vassell. If those guys were out, you could at least make the case that, Vassell is going to get more shot volume. But even then at 6,500, I wouldn't be that excited for him.
I love this chat, man. Love this chat. Everybody giving out helpful advice. We got good community here. No matter what Josh Ingerman wants to say, we got a great community here. People
should be a relaxing week with him in Vegas.
I woke up, took some ibuprofen, went and got some Sudafed. That Sudafed just hit me too. Let me tell you, Sudafed, for someone who no longer uses any controlled substances, okay? Back in the day, if I would pop a Sudafed, it's whatever. But like, I take a couple Sudafed and I'm ready to rock, man. I might start taking these when I'm not sick. Let me talk about starting your day right. I feel pretty good. Little Sudafed. Who would have thought? I had to go behind the counter. I had to give him my license to get it too.
Yeah, what do you have to be 18?
Yeah, and you can only buy like this amount of Sudafed in PA per day or per month as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, because people like to cook meth with Sudafed, but not me, dude. Not me. Yeah, Fear said it's in the lockbox for sure. Oh yeah, people. I mean, that's because people cook meth, but
yeah, maybe I'll start doing that. Get out of my downswing.
What? To start cooking meth.
Start cooking meth.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, get into it, man. How do you want to approach I appreciate that from all you guys. Always very helpful when I'm dealing with certain ailments. What's up? Jazzy
Face said Lofty's the reason we have to show our ID to buy basic medicine.
Nah, man. Although I'm not gonna lie, I had a real, how I've told you at the turn of like summer into fall, I always get those, or sometimes like fall to winter, October, November, really. I get those wicked sinus infections. I've told you where I'm like,
we both do.
We both. And you feel like death, sometimes up to 10 days, right?
Yeah.
So Sudafed was doing the trick. I went through a box of that real quick. And then I had to go in and I Googled because I knew like there were some things there. So I Googled, and I think it's like 3 grams per day you can buy or 9 grams per month of Sudafed, which equals out to like 45 pills. Cause I didn't want to be the guy that went in there looking like a junkie trying to buy more Sudafed.
You get cut off from the Sudafed.
Yeah, dude. You know how embarrassing that would be if there was a long line and I go out and I'm just like, fuck, I can't go in. Yeah, wouldn't be good. But they don't call the cops, it says. They just turn you down. But I haven't bought Sudafed in at least like 6 months.
What if you get aggressive about not being allowed your Sudafed though? Then do they call the cops?
Oh, if you like cause a disruption?
Right.
jump behind the counter?
Yeah, exactly.
I think they call the cops. Yeah, if I had to guess. How about this? Milwaukee today, Giannis at 1% projected ownership. Nobody else above 0.4%.
I mean, it's a really tricky spot. It's a phenomenal matchup for Milwaukee. There is obviously very, very legitimate risk that these guys don't play the fourth quarter. But getting 1%, like if Giannis is really going to be 1 or 2% owned, that is very appealing in tournaments, because when you think about the other pay up options we've talked about so far with Jokic and Embiid, they're both center only. So they're costing you these good mid-range centers, whereas Giannis doesn't. So that's appealing. It is a great matchup. If this game does, get wildly out of hand, you could just get one of those games where Giannis plays 3 quarters, but puts up, 2.2 fantasy points per minute or something, and still gives you a big game. So at the lack of ownership, I do think he's interesting. Same goes for Drew at 8K, but I understand why there's not a lot of ownership coming in here, just because of one, this team being healthy, and then two, a 17.5 point spread is massive.
It is. So is the 241.5 total attached to this Hawks Minnesota game that we get to next. DeJounte Murray, I guess at this time you just assume he plays, but didn't play yesterday. I don't know if that was sitting out the front end of a back-to-back.
It was an illness.
Right. I'm just saying, could he have played if it was an island game? I don't know. But if he ends up sitting today again, then that could open some things up for the Hawks facing a Minnesota team that just, went on, was involved in that 270 something game against the New York Knicks the other day.
Yeah, I mean, if Murray ends up sitting, you kind of just have two, lock isn't the right word, but Damian Lillard and Trae Young both just look like two of the absolute top plays on the slate if Murray sits, and they're both, at the same position. But if Murray's in, 9,400 for Trae Young, still appealing, and he's only pulling about 9% ownership. Clint Capella at 5,600 is going to look good. If you're not playing Capella, you can go to $4,700 Okongwu. They are going to combine for 48 minutes. It's just a matter of how those minutes are split. Yesterday, we got 25 from Capella. Would have been about 28 if that game were competitive to the end. Okongwu played the rest. So expecting around 27, 28 for Capella, 20, 21 for Okongwu is probably the correct way to approach it. But you're going to get some games occasionally where one of them, plays even more. So in tournaments, I like those guys. Really like the $5,600 price tag on Capella. If Murray is out, Young looks even better. Capella looks slightly better. It does give him a little bit of an uptick in rebounding when Murray's not out there. But assuming Murray's in, I think that Young still looks good. Capella would be my favorite option. Murray looks, fine as well.
Minnesota's impossible too, because Cat could be back today. The expectation is that he will be back. The expectation is that Anthony Edwards is going to be back as well. So my assumption with Cat not playing since November 28th is that he's very much limited in a spot like this. But this is what's difficult. You're going up against a bad Atlanta defense, 241.5 total game, yet Minnesota still looks wildly unappealing for the most part if Towns and Edwards are both back tonight.
Yeah, it makes this team really tough. Towns, I think, can pretty safely be ignored at $8,300 center only.
For sure.
But it's kind of like John Morant, where we don't know exactly how limited he's going to be, but whatever minutes he's on the floor, he is going to cut into the production of other guys. But I still find the lack of ownership here to be pretty appealing. $7,200 for Rudy Gobert at no ownership, I think, is a very good spot to get to in tournaments. Anthony Edwards, assuming he's back and not on any massive, any minutes restriction, only 9K, 3% owned. Those guys in a game that should be very high scoring are, I think, very appealing tournament plays. It's just that they don't stand out as priorities because you are getting a healthier Minnesota team. You did see salaries come up across the board. So it just creates a really interesting spot where you have a game with this massive total. But if Towns and Edwards are in on the Minnesota side and Murray's in on the Atlanta side, you don't have much ownership at all going to this game.
At all, yeah. Yeah, what happens if it just shoots out and becomes one of these nuclear type games? Yeah.
Right. Like this game definitely has the potential to be one, sort of like the Minnesota, not that you're ever expecting 280 points or whatever, but sort of like the Minnesota-New York game where it has the potential to just be a game where it's like, okay, well, it didn't matter that those guys were correctly priced or a little bit overpriced because they all just destroyed their salary because nobody can play defense.
Right. Brian Cook said, I think asking for Sudafed in grams is a good way to get on their list. Dude, you don't ask for it like that. But if you go and Google it, go Google it. Like Pennsylvania Sudafed laws or something. It's like it tells you about it in grams, which is insane. Like, why would they even do that? I don't know. Maybe different ones. Do you know people, Adam? Do you know people go in and get high off of Imodium?
I know you.
I would never. I would never. But that is an insane thing. That people go in. Do you know what Imodium is?
No.
Okay, so it's like an anti-diarrheal medicine, right?
Okay.
But if you take enough, crosses the blood-brain barrier and essentially acts as a hardcore opiate. So people were going into these pharmacies, right? Or like grocery stores, buying up Imodium and eating like 200 of them at a time.
How's it feel?
They probably didn't shit for 7 years. Isn't that nuts? Think about how dangerous that is. And I've done some wild stuff, but legitimately go, and then you get ripped off of it too. You ever robo trip?
I don't even know what that means.
No. Man. Like
I figured out what it means, but no.
Or Coracetin. Those, man, the high school days, you want to talk about a bad experience. Woo! I guarantee there's some people in chat that have experienced that. That's not, I've done it many times, not fun. And you keep going, not fun, dude. You actually start walking like you're a robot and things. I fell into a swimming pool once and someone had to come and save me, Adam. That's how bad it was.
Yeah. Are you making this up? I can't tell.
No, I swear to God, I was like 16 years old.
I was like, that sounds like a totally like something that would or could have happened.
Now I forgot how to swim. My limbs stopped working. Yeah. That's in the past. But yeah, you can do some wild stuff out there. I do not condone any of that. I do, however, condone hitting that thumbs up. We've already got over 125. Appreciate you guys. And also, I also condone getting a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum when you sign up at PrizePicks. I'm sure they love me going straight from overdosing on Coracetin into a PrizePicks read. But here we are. In all seriousness, they don't condone that. They do condone winning money, though. And we've got the tools to do so. You're getting a free month of everything, $120 value over at Stokastic Plus Platinum. That's all of our tools, not just for PrizePicks, but for every sport. I mentioned all the sports that are taking place right now with baseball right around the corner. You're getting a full calendar month of every tool that we have on the site. If you want to get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on on top of that, you can. You're getting the lineup generator, the lineup builder, ownership, player projection, top stacks across the board, every sport for free. When you sign up at PrizePicks, you got to use the link in the description so we can find you, or the one in chat. Otherwise, we can't. But yeah, dude, you go over there. First of all, 100% first match deposit bonus up to $100 on PrizePicks. So if you put 100 in, you're getting 200. If you put 50 in, you're getting another 50, turning that into 100. So the bonus there is already covering your deposit. And then you're getting $120 value Stokastic Plus Platinum, all the tools for every sport, not to mention everything you need to win at PrizePicks. Josh has the free videos over on the Odd Shopper channel every day. He's been on a run. Things are looking good. And if PrizePicks, if you're wondering what it is, you're probably not, because everyone's playing there now, especially in the non-legal betting states where you're looking to scratch that itch. You're just taking props over or the under, no juice on either side. Just over or the under on any sport, combine as many as you want up to 6, and you let it ride. If you do a 5-pick flex play, you hit all 5, you're 10Xing. But unlike a traditional book, you hit 4 and you miss that one, it doesn't bust your lineup. You still 2X. You still make money back on 3 of 5. Or you could go wild, do a 6Xer. I know Eric Lindquist in his channel the other day had a guy 6X yet last night, when 6 for 6, turned 25 into like 650, 25X'd on that. So a lot of different ways to sustain a bankroll and also put yourself in a position to make a lot of money. And you're getting all of our tools entirely free over at Stokastic for a month. So use the link, sign up, get your deposit bonus, get your free month, say what's up in Discord, come hang out with us. We're talking PrizePicks and the Chalkboard app too, all the time, if you're looking to get involved in that. So get in on it. PrizePicks, sponsor the strategy show. All right. Portland and Utah. Let's go to the Blazers here. 5-point dogs. This one gets interesting, right, man? Because you have no Jeremy Grant, no Anthony Simons. Also dealing with a concussion. Nasir Little is questionable as well. So that, those forward positions could look mighty interesting today if he sits, if Grant is already out. And then at the guard position, of course, you have no Anthony Simons either.
Yeah, interested to see what the starting lineup is here. Don't know. So last game with no Grant, you had Watford go back to the bench. They moved Reddish back into the starting lineup, but you had Simons in that game. So wouldn't be surprised if you see Watford back in the starting lineup here and you get Dame, Thibault, Reddish, Watford, Nurkic.
And Watford still played 30 minutes. I think Reddish only played like 18 or something.
Yeah, he did. I swapped to a ton of Reddish and he sucked. Dame is, I think, the best play on the slate. It's a great matchup against Utah. He's 10-5. I already looked this up yesterday because basically the entire top of the leaderboard in best ball has Dame except for me. And so based on his comments the other day about potentially shutting it down, I got excited and was like, oh, good, maybe I'll dodge Dame. Instead, Portland rules out everybody except for Dame. He goes from 1.25 DraftKings points per minute when he shares the floor with Simons and Grant this year to 1.77 DraftKings points per minute when neither of them are on the floor. Then you get this great matchup with Utah. He looks absolutely fantastic. If you want to make the case that 44% ownership is too high, just from a range of outcome standpoint, it's kind of like Trae Young yesterday. You can certainly argue that he's not, a 5 or 6 to 1 favorite against Steph Curry or James Harden or Trae Young or whoever you want to name in that 9 to 10K price range, and you'd be right. But from a chances of success, median outcome standpoint, he's just so much better than those guys. Assuming that their teams end up being healthy, where I'm just going to get to tons of Dame and be different elsewhere. He's going to look great. Nurkic at 6,200 is going to look good. We've seen plenty of minutes from him recently, typically giving you 26, 27 a game. He can see a little bit more in the way of production as well with no Simons or Grant. You're going to get a lot of minutes, or you would expect a lot of minutes from Reddish, from Thibault, from Watford. The only issue with Watford is that he's center only on DraftKings, but still 5,300 if he's starting and playing big minutes. That's not going to look bad. This is an extremely appealing team.
It really is. Across the whole Little thing, though, is interesting because we have him at 18%. If he doesn't play, how much ownership is going to go to some of these guys if Little's out?
I don't think it's a weird spot because if Little is in at 3,100, I think he is a good value. You're probably getting, if he comes off the bench, you're probably getting like low to mid 20s in minutes. If he were to start instead of Watford, then you're giving him, a couple more minutes and his projection's going up. But if he's out, I don't really know what they'll do because I think you could just see like Kevin Knox get some minutes, but not enough to be a great play. Jabari Walker gets some minutes, but not enough to be a great play. I'm not sure if Little's out that there's one guy that just steps up and becomes Nas Little, basically.
What comment did you make that I didn't catch?
Oh, I think you caught them. Me just throwing jabs about you being addicted to multiple drugs while you were talking. I think you just. I think you just
surely caught on to that. Yeah. I was a drug and alcohol counselor. To whoever mentioned, I was drug and alcohol counselor for 7 years, adolescent inpatient rehab for 7 years, and it was the greatest job. I absolutely loved it. I started there when I was 21 years old. Could relate to everybody, obviously. You had to have like 2 years clean when you started. I said I had like 6 months, but I'm not sure they really cared. And yeah, dude, awesome job. But I'll tell you, working on the holidays was tough because you're breaking up a ton of fights. No 17-year-old kid wants to be there during Christmas. Like, you know what I mean? It was tough. But some of those kids, I'll tell you what, the reason that job was great but also sucked is you'd have a lot of these kids coming in from Chester, from Philly, from Bethlehem. A lot of these areas, they grew up in like real rough spots. They're super, just like the most likable kids ever. Many of them, they'd come in, they'd be there for 60, 90 days and everything changed and they were amazing. But you knew that once you sent them back, they were going right back to the same environment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it sucked because like you could see these kids, you say, man, if everything was stable, you'd probably end up being super successful, but it didn't work that way. It sucked, man. That was the one thing that really sucked because you get a lot of reports like, yeah, he got killed. He just died. And you're talking like 16, 17-year-old kids. It was tough, but I loved that job. I'm going to go back and do like some volunteer shit there because I got to do something decent these days. I'm a selfish person. All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, I mean, it's the same way. Like that's kind of one of the things about like this industry is like, what are you actually providing?
Right. Like we provide entertainment and information,
Sure.
and that's great. And like I'm always willing to help people and answer questions, but it is different, right? Like it's not the same fulfillment as you get. You even, dude, Adam even mentioned to me the other day, and you can say, to keep up your act now, you can say you were full of shit, but I don't believe it. Even you were saying the other day, like you've thought about going in and teaching kids like how to learn math through like the DFS and poker and betting mindset.
Yeah, like I've thought about it, and then I'm just like, yeah, I'd rather take a nap or something. But
right, but that's what. It's told you that was coming. I bet when you're a little older, you may reconsider. Maybe like I want to do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. It would feel good.
Yeah. Once you're done driving there, you're like, what am I doing?
Right. Yeah, and while I'm doing it,
be watching Netflix. Yeah.
Right.
Be watching another true murder that ends the same way every time.
I could be watching them do this on the wire instead of doing it myself.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, that approach that you have, guarantee you would go way further than the way that they're teaching math now.
Oh, for sure.
Like people would actually have interest. All right. Utah. What do you want to do with Utah? Laurie's back. Clarkson's still out. Sexton's still out. So Laurie pulling a little bit of love here at 9,100. Not the worst matchup. Only 8% owned.
Yeah. Markkanen, I think, actually looks pretty decent. Is projected to go a little bit under owned. The only problem is like how easy is it going to be to get to him, assuming you're prioritizing Dame, you're potentially prioritizing Young if Murray is out. But 9,100 is one of the cheaper price tags we've seen on Markkanen in a while. Not a bad matchup, like you said. I do think he's a good tournament play. Beyond him, I don't really think there's much of anything. You can throw Walker Kessler into that bucket of good centers that aren't getting much ownership, but yeah, there's nothing that really stands out. I think Markkanen's the only guy I'd really get to.
Okay. Let's wrap this one up with Phoenix and the Lakers. Sir Dwayne said, and I just want to, it's a different type of reward when you see one of the kids doing well later in life, different type of jubilation. Yeah, dude, I'll be 36 on Sunday. And I haven't been there in probably, I don't know, 9 years now or whatever. 8 years. I still get people hit me up on Facebook that are actually like one of them is running a rehab now. Some of them do well, and that's encouraging. But the unfortunate truth is that many of them don't. All right, Phoenix. Let's wrap this one up. So yeah, I joke about all that shit, but I take it seriously. I don't want the stuff on the streets. It was different back in my day. Now everything is like flesh-eating disease. The new stuff. You see this? It eats your flesh out now. Same. Used to be like, all right, I'll stop. Let's go to Phoenix here. No DeAndre Ayton today. So Bismack Biyombo going to be popular. He might get beat up by Anthony Davis, but here we are. Biyombo 21%, $3,700. What do you think this rotation looks like from a center standpoint? Like how many minutes can we reasonably project Biyombo for?
22.
Yeah. Still cheap though.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really tricky this year. We've seen him start games, and then there's been a lot of like random stuff that's happened in Bismack Biyombo starts where, he gets in foul trouble or the game blows out or both. And if you're just looking at the playing time, it can be misleading. But in this most recent game where they played OKC a few days ago, you got a 7-minute stint to open the game. You got 5.5 minutes to close the first half. You got 7 minutes to open the third quarter. He did sub back in the fourth for a minute, 15 seconds, but then they closed without a center. You got a closing lineup of Landry Shamet, Ish Wainwright, Devin Booker, Torrey Craig, Chris Paul. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see less than 48 minutes from Biyombo plus Landale. I think expecting around 22 minutes or so makes sense. This is, it's a spot where you could certainly get more minutes. So there is some appeal there. Maybe they do go with 48 minutes to deal with Davis or whatever. But I think there's a good chance they close small. And that makes it so like expecting, I think probably like 22 minutes from Biyombo, 16, 17 from Landale makes sense.
Man, that could be tough going small in this lineup against Davis.
Yeah, I mean, but like the thing is, I don't think they have a true answer for Davis anyway.
That's a good point.
It's not like it's not like Biyombo Orlando are stopping him. Like, you're still going to need to double him. You're still going to front him and keep the ball out of the post. Like,
so like, why not have a better overall lineup out there? Right. Yeah, you're going to get beat up anyway. Who do you think would close it? What do you think the closing lineup would look like if they close small?
Probably the same as last game, where they go with like either a Koji or Wainwright, and then Shamet.
Man, all right.
Like, if they go, like, they could go. If they go with like Torrey Craig and Josh Okogie, just like doubling and fronting Davis, like I wouldn't be surprised if they go that route. And then you get Shamet out there for more shooting, maybe.
Yeah, and you know what? The whole doubling Davis isn't the worst idea, given how bad the rest of this Lakers team is. Like,
yeah, and well, I mean, I think the rest of the Lakers are good now, but
I really from an overall, what I'm saying is there's no other dominant player. Like, yeah. Sure, you don't want to be leaving Russell open for wide open threes. Maybe not Beasley, but I don't know. I wouldn't say they're exactly dominant.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's mostly just that I would think that there was a good chance that Biyombo closes if I thought Biyombo was actually going to be able to do anything to stop Anthony Davis.
Do you want to get to some Davis today at 10-4?
Yeah, I mean, I think the price tag looks pretty good. I wish he had power forward eligibility. On FanDuel, I'm assuming does. Everybody does. Yeah, he does on FanDuel. So more interesting on FanDuel at 11-1. Not getting much ownership there either. But on DraftKings, 10-4, he's about a fantasy point, 1.5 fantasy points per minute without LeBron. The problem is just that he's in that same price range with Dame. He's center only, so you have the high opportunity cost, and you have all these, cheap mid-range centers. It makes it difficult to prioritize him, but certainly happy to get there. Happy to get to, a little bit of Russell, a little bit of Malik Beasley, but I don't think there's any true priorities from the Lakers.
Okay. 10 up, 10 down. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us as always. We got Deeper Dive live before lock tonight, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern time. You got the Odds Shop right before that on the Odds Shopper channel. Come hang out, show some love, help us build that up. Come join the Chalkboard app, totally free forever, down in the description. And like I said, PrizePicks, 50% off all of our stuff or whatever. Everything we got down there in the link if you want to get in on it. Join the family around this way. Also, rock that Stokastic avatar so you can get some free months and inducted into the Hall of Fame when you win. But yeah, appreciate you guys. Follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS, me at Laffy_D. Shout out to Jacob for producing this one. See you back here tomorrow morning on the Strategy Show. Peace.